Hey guys.
Hiya, loves.
Hiya, love.
I'm Gabs, and this is my girlfriend Soph.
Hello.
We are your hosts. Welcome to Queer Podcast, where we hear all things queer.
We bring you the best of all the coming out stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the outright hilarious.
This is the content that we wish we had during our closeted years.
So stay tuned for our weekly episodes. Hi guys, welcome back to Queer Podcast. Today on this episode we're talking with an Orthodox Jewish girl. She talks about her coming out story and what it was like for her and what it's like existing as a queer girl in a very Jewish religious family. So Gabs, do you want to explain kind of the levels of Judaism just for everyone that's listening, people that might not know?
Of course.
Like myself.
Of course. So speaking as a Jewish person, from my knowledge, as somebody who doesn't personally believe in God or the religion or whatever, I come from a cultural Jewish background. That's why I still identify as Jewish, but we're not going to go into that. It's not about me. There's Reformed Judaism and there's Orthodox Judaism. If you imagine them on a spectrum, Reformed Judaism is more liberal than Orthodox Judaism, basically. As with most religions, there's different levels of observance, but it's very important to know that there are Jewish people who identify their faith and beliefs anywhere on that spectrum.
Yeah, okay.
The girl we are speaking to in this episode is leaning more towards the Orthodox side of things, but she talks a lot more about that in the conversation that we have with her.
Yeah, it was so good to speak to her and hear her story from a religious point of view. She also mentions that she wants to be a little more observant in her religion.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want her sexuality to get in the way of that, so it's so interesting.
I know.
Yeah, well, let's hear it, eh? Go on, wait, you've got to do your...
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, no, wait, she's anonymous. Oh,
Oh,
that's what we need to say too. She's remaining anonymous. So let's hear from...
Oh, whoa, whoa, mysterious girl.
Anonymous. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to Queer Podcast.
Thank you so much.
So you're on here to tell us your coming out story. You're Orthodox Jew,
Yeah.
and you're going to be talking about coming out in a Jewish family, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where does it start?
So I'm 24 and I didn't know that I was queer until I was maybe 20. So I think quite late compared to quite a lot of girls. I think part of that actually had to do with religion. Growing up Orthodox, it was never an option to be gay. No one really spoke about it. I didn't really know any family friends who were gay, no one in the Jewish community. So I wasn't really aware that it was a thing that you could be.
Yeah.
But one of my best friends came out to me as bi, and I started resonating with a lot of the things that she was telling me. This girl wasn't Jewish, and just made me question a lot about my life, and it was really the beginning of me starting to question my sexuality. I'd always been attracted to girls. I just never realised that it was attraction.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can you relate to that at all?
I can so relate to that. I was
Definitely. Oh
growing
my
up
God.
having that, thinking I didn't understand what it was. I was like, what is
Yeah.
this? Like, to me, it was not possible that it could be an attraction. So I was like, what the hell is going
Yeah.
on?
Oh my
Why
gosh,
am I
yeah.
so interested in these women, like in these girls?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
It feels like some kind of obsession, and it just feels wrong. Or it can feel wrong, or it can feel like it's normal, and maybe everyone does that, but I don't know. It's just, I always had it, but I didn't really question it. I just thought that's the way that I was. It was kind of weird, but nothing really to think about in a deep way. But when my friend came out to me, I started, like I said, resonating with what she was telling me about being bi, and I thought about it a lot. And as the overthinker that I am, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It became an obsession. Like,
yeah.
why am I attracted to girls? What does this mean? Am I gay? Am I bi? Started researching the different spectrums, the romantic spectrum and the sexual spectrum, and
Wow.
so long agonizing where I was on the different spectrums. And to be honest, I'm still not sure. I think it's definitely a journey and a process, and
Yeah, 100%.
it's a lot more complicated than just black and white where you are on the spectrum. So for me, coming out was, first of all, this friend that I was speaking to, she told me to come out to myself.
Good advice.
Yeah, So important.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just telling yourself that you accept yourself for who you are, even if it's not a definite I am gay or I am bi or I am pan. It's just accepting that maybe you're a little bit different to the person that you thought that you were, and that it's okay. And it might change, and sexuality is fluid, but that's okay. So that's the first coming out that I did.
Oh, I love that.
And that was a very difficult time.
Oh, I can imagine. Well done, though, for doing it, you know, in the least patronising way possible. I feel like that sounds patronising. I don't mean it in that way at
But
all.
it's a big thing.
Every little step, every person you come out to, I think, is a big thing. And it deserves a congratulations. It deserves a big fat thumbs up, you know?
Thanks. Absolutely. I feel that at the beginning it's very difficult, but for anyone listening, you know, it definitely gets easier over time. That's the big thing that I've learned. So after coming out to myself, I'm the kind of person that can't keep things to myself. I can't keep secrets. And it wasn't one of those situations where I was in the closet for another few years and just feeling so frustrated. Like I just had to tell people straight away.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't exactly sure what I was or who I was. So I came out to a few really close friends who I knew were also queer. And that really helped because I could just talk to them about what I was going through, what I was feeling, and just basically talk about what was happening, the changes that I was going through in my thinking. And they just sort of supported me and calmed me down, told me not to stress so much about it. And that was great. But then after panicking about who I was and coming out and that whole situation, I realized that there was the religious aspect to battle with. For me, that's maybe the biggest conflict, because not only am I Orthodox, but I would like to be more observant and more religious. I feel like being queer pushes a lot of people away from religion. It's so many different religious communities, because they feel like maybe there isn't a space for them in their community. In Judaism, religiousness is a whole spectrum. You've got ultra Orthodox on one end and you've got very liberal on the other end, and there are so many different spaces in between. And for me, Orthodox communities can sometimes feel like very exclusive spaces and can sometimes deny the existence of queer Jews. So I was really worried about that. I'm still worried about that, and I'm not out to my community. I'm not out to, you know, some of my family, even, because I'm worried about what they'll think about me and how, I guess, I'm worried about our reputation. And I know that shouldn't be an issue, that, you know, being queer shouldn't ruin your reputation. But I think in an Orthodox community, it definitely can.
Yeah, I understand.
And so in other spaces, in other Jewish spaces, say more on the liberal end of the religious spectrum, queer people are definitely more accepted. You don't want to conform just because you have to, but sometimes it's maybe not safe to be different. I know that someone in my community who's around my age came out and they just weren't accepted, and their family was not accepted. So it's just kind of scary, especially when you're so involved in the community and your family is involved in the community. You don't want people to treat you any differently or treat your family differently.
Yeah, completely.
So I've definitely found that in terms of coming out to my religious Jewish friends has been the most difficult. Friends that maybe I've had since I was 16 and I know so well and they know me so well, but there was just this one thing about me that they didn't know. I didn't want to keep it to myself any longer, but it was just the most scary thing, because I thought, well, is this going to change our friendship? Will they not want to have sleepovers anymore? Will they not want to go on trips with me? Will they not want to hang out? Will they think that I'm disgusting? There's so many thoughts that go through your head when you're figuring out whether, you know, when you're weighing up whether you should come out to someone or not. So coming out to religious friends has definitely been a challenge, and I think I've come out to most of my non-Jewish friends now, but there are still some Jewish friends that that are on my list to come out to, because I'm just really worried that they won't want to be friends. I know that if someone doesn't want to be friends with you because you're queer, that's their loss, and, you know, it's either an opportunity to educate them or to say goodbye to that friendship if they don't accept you.
You're absolutely right. It is a reflection of them and their character and everything. And maybe is a sign that they're not the best person to have in your life. But at the same time, they are someone that is important to you and they are a friend of yours. And it makes the battle in your head so much more intense, because it feels like, even though it might not be the way that it is when it happens, it does feel like you can't win.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, it might be the fact that they are uneducated, and obviously they're brought up in a family that maybe pushes beliefs about queer people on them. So, it is hard, and you don't know where their beliefs lie.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you grow up believing that it's wrong to be gay, it can be sometimes hard to change someone's mind about that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I relate to that, not even in a religious sense, but, I think my parents, growing up, it wasn't normal to them, and it was almost like there was something wrong with you, there was something wrong. So I kind of grew up believing kind of that there was something wrong with you if you are gay. So I battled with that just growing up when I was younger, thinking, oh my God, I'm so wrong, I'm so bad for thinking this, because it's not normal, it's not okay, it's not right.
Yeah.
It's been so difficult.
I mean, we can all relate to it, I guess.
Yeah. For everyone listening, I'm Jewish as well. Like you said, there is a spectrum of where you lie on the religion side of things. And I've been brought up Jewish, but I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the religious side. But, growing up, I've had a lot of Jewish friends. I went to a Jewish school. And when I figured out who I was and it was time for me to come out to all my Jewish friends who are more religious than I am, it was terrifying. I was so frightened. One of my best friends is pretty, I'd say she's leaning towards the Orthodox side of things. And oh my goodness, I was so petrified she was going to hate me and she was going to think I was gross. Like everything that you said, I built up this thing in my head. But I did it, and all she said was, oh, it all makes sense now. And she doesn't give a care in the world. She doesn't bat an eyelid. We're still absolutely best mates. She treats it just as if it's totally normal, which in an ideal world it would be.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know, I am super lucky. I'm super lucky.
Yeah.
But I can totally relate to the fear, especially coming from a Jewish community. Everyone knows everyone. It's very judgmental, as in most tight-knit communities. But if it's any reassurance to you and to anyone else out there listening, everyone surprised me with how understanding and how interested and how not fazed they were about it.
I found that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing that I've learned, that even though it's absolutely terrifying coming out, people have reacted so well and have actually been a lot more supportive than I thought. I haven't lost any friends over it.
That's fantastic.
And even my religious Jewish friends they've been great. Sometimes they've even shown an interest in my queer life. I have had a few insensitive comments, but they're things that you would expect if you're having that kind of conversation. Like, someone said to me, oh, but I want you to marry a boy so that you can have children. And I don't know, just things like that make you roll your eyes a bit.
It's just lack of education, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But honestly, like, it's not as bad as I was expecting.
Good.
That's good.
So tell us about coming out to your close family then.
Ooh, so I actually came out to my parents and my brother at synagogue, which was
oh my goodness.
It was kind of an accident.
Oh, it was an accident. Oh my God.
It was not, I wasn't planning on doing it. Basically, we were at a Friday night dinner at our synagogue. They were having a community meal, and it was the day before my 21st birthday. And I was planning on being quite dramatic and coming out to my family the next day on my 21st birthday. But my brother was pestering me about something to do with dating, and he kept asking me throughout the meal about it. And I decided to get the attention of all my family and say, actually, there's something that I need to tell you.
Wow.
And then I came out to them in a room full of people.
Whoa.
God, that's so brave.
Obviously, not everyone could hear this, thankfully. But I think my parents were just a bit shocked that I'd picked that particular moment in that particular place.
I bet.
Yeah, you went all out, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm going to go hard or go home. I'm doing this.
Exactly. Why not sin in a synagogue? Why not
owning
be
it.
there?
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't for me. It wasn't the right moment, and I definitely regret that. I think if I could come out to my family again, I would look up some YouTube videos, and I don't know. You get those people who write "I'm gay" on cakes, or like if you are what you a rainbow cake.
Love that.
I'd do something a lot more creative.
I think I like this story better.
But it happened. Like, sometimes you don't know when you're going to come out to someone, it just happens. Or sometimes you want to come out to someone, but then it doesn't end up happening because it just doesn't feel like the right moment. I've had friends that I've been meaning to come out to you for years and years, and every time I see them, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the time I'm going to do it. I'm going to just tell them, and then it doesn't happen for whatever reason. But you just have to judge it on, when it feels right. My family, when I came out to them, yeah, like I said, they were very shocked and surprised and taken aback. I don't think they said anything for a good while, maybe not until the rest of the meal that we were having at this synagogue dinner. But it's taken a lot of time, and they have been supportive. I think it just takes a lot of having meaningful conversations and giving parents space to ask questions. Sometimes my dad didn't know what to say, and I would, if we were talking about gay stuff, I would say, Dad, like, is there anything that you want to ask me? Is there anything that's been on your mind? Just giving him that space, because out of him and my mom, he was the one who's maybe come from a more protective, sheltered background, so wasn't used to hanging around gay people as much. So yeah, just giving him that space to ask questions has been really helpful. And I think now, a few years down the line, he's definitely a lot more respectful about it. That's fantastic. Takes an interest in my non-existent dating life. Whereas my mum has a gay cousin, so she's always been exposed to that, and she was more supportive right from the beginning. Amazing. My brother couldn't care less, by the way. Like, he's 2 years younger than me, and he couldn't care less, so that's brilliant. But yeah, the rest of my family are in the dark about it, and I'm hoping that one day, maybe they'll even listen to this podcast, and it's just difficult.
Of course, it really is.
I mean, like you say, there's a right time for everything, and the most important thing is that you do that when it's the right time for you and when you feel safe to do so.
Yeah, definitely. It might be hard sometimes if people say, now is the time to do it. We want you to tell this person, and we want this person to blah, blah. It's hard to sort of say, no, I'm going to do it in my own time. But I think that's very important for you, for anyone really.
Yeah. I think you're right. And coming out at the right time and when you feel safe is definitely the most important thing to consider.
Yeah. It does just show that, the time and if it feels right for you is so important.
Definitely. Sometimes coming out to different people is going to be a different experience.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Especially with different generations. And there was a time when some of my friends, I just wanted to like make a joke about it and like, send them a video of some lesbian YouTuber being like, your friend who sent you this is gay. You know what I mean? I think it was like Ali Hills wrote a song or something. And then, with your family, I told my mum in person, and then I was thinking, it took me a long time to come out to my grandparents, but I was like, I wanted to do that in a letter, so.
Yeah, different ways for different people.
Yeah, I think coming out means something hugely different for different people, and then expanding on that, an individual person can have many ways of wanting to do it depending on the person they're coming out to. So it's very important to sort of take control of that whenever you can.
Yeah.
Did you write a letter in the end to your grandparents, and how did that go?
No. So I was also sort of pushed into that situation. I came out to my mum when I was 17 and my auntie when I was 17. I have a very small family, by the way. At the time, it was basically just my mum, my auntie, my grandparents. So I didn't have much to do. So I came out to them at 17, and then I just could not bring myself to come out to my grandparents for the fact that we're Jewish and they're a bit more sort of protective about the religion than I am. That scared me a lot.
It's a generational thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So I only came out to them last year. So 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
You did it.
I did do it. I did it. And I wanted to draft a letter, I wanted to write a letter. And I remember speaking to Mum about this maybe a couple of years after I'd come out to her. I said, I'm thinking of writing them a letter. No, you need to go and speak to them. You need to speak to them. I was like, I can't. I just can't do it.
It's hard to do face to face sometimes.
I know, but I was going on holiday with my girlfriend at the time, and Grandma kept asking me questions about who I was going with and how I know her and all that jazz. And my mum sat me down and said, I think this might be the right time for you. And I said, I agree, but I'm just so scared. I'm so scared. She gave me an amazing pep talk. You know, my mum has been incredible. I'm so lucky. She's been amazing. And she gave me an amazing pep talk. And she said, me and Sam, that's her husband, my stepdad, will come with you and we'll support you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Oh.
So I went round and I sat down and I said, this person I'm going with is my girlfriend. And my grandma looked at me and she goes, girlfriend? What do you mean girlfriend? And I was thinking, don't make me explain this anymore. This is already like traumatizing for me. And I was like, we're a couple, we're in a relationship. And she just went, oh. And then the silence, oh my God, it could have killed me. You know, that really heavy silence that feels like it is going on forever. I was like just fiddling with my thumbs. I was having so much anxiety. She kind of changed the subject. And then a few hours later, my grandpa called me and he said, to me, you are no different today than you were yesterday.
Aww.
And it made me cry. It was so powerful because I was so worried about them because of the generation gap, the religious thing. And they actually were probably the easiest in terms of reaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it didn't change your relationship with them at all?
If anything, it made me so much closer to them. I've always been super close to my grandparents because we've been a super small family. But for so long, I was hiding such a big part of myself. And then all of a sudden, they knew everything. And I was like so used to keeping secrets and hiding things and changing stories and changing names. And all of a sudden, I just had this massive weight lifted off me because, oh my gosh, I don't need to do that anymore. It was the most freeing, empowering feeling ever. And I'm very, very lucky. You know, I acknowledge not everyone's going to have that, but they were incredible. And they show so much of an interest in Soph and always ask about you, don't they?
Yeah.
And they love having around, and it's amazing.
That's so lovely. What an inspiration to me.
Do you know, I'm so glad. I hope that, like, I'm super lucky to have that story, but to be able to tell it and hopefully make other people feel a bit more empowered or a bit more inspired or a bit more relieved, even the tiniest bit. So I'm really glad to hear that.
It's good to hear positive coming out stories to grandparents, because that's something that's been really on my mind a lot. And it's amazing to hear that it's made you so much closer, because I feel like there's definitely that disconnect. It feels like I'm hiding something from them, and I don't want to. I want to let them into my life. But also sometimes, unless there's physical proof, that's also a worry, because, you know, unless I present a girlfriend to them, they might try and push aside the thought or just deny it completely and say, oh, this isn't true, you know, you're still going to marry a boy. And so I worry about not being in a relationship and coming out and then them not believing me or having false hope about me being in a relationship with a boy.
There was a girl that we had on a couple of episodes ago, and she talked about that with her grandparents too, and she said, you know, I'm going to come out to them when I do have a girlfriend. And that's it then. There's no question about it. It's like, I'm dating this person and that's that.
And it's almost easier to say, I mean, I found it easier to say I have a girlfriend instead of I'm gay, or however you identify. I remember for me coming out, I could not bring myself to say the word gay or lesbian. I couldn't do it. I could not physically get the word out of my mouth. So to say, oh, I have a girlfriend, or I'm interested in a girl, I'm seeing this girl, was so much easier.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I mean, it's still a huge thing to do, and took a lot of bravery. So
well
done.
I think from your story, you know, coming out to your family in the synagogue, that's fucking
incredible.
brave. I think that's amazing.
So brave.
Maybe a bit stupid.
So bold.
No, not at all. You know, you felt that in the moment. You were like, right, I'm doing this. I'm taking this moment, and I'm doing it. Even though now you kind of might regret that a bit, I still have a lot of admiration for you for doing that, because you did that for you, you know. So
just a question before you go: what advice would you give to someone that's maybe struggling coming out right now?
I think for other Jewish people who are struggling to come out, definitely don't put any pressure on yourself. Don't rush into it if you don't feel like it's a safe space to do so. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah. It's just, you know, someone just going through a similar position that you're in.
Maybe just like think about how you feel now, having come out to some of your religious friends and your close family, and then think about the younger you that hadn't told anyone. You know, maybe think of it in a way.
As if
what
you're
would you say
to
yourself?
Yourself when you was younger.
if that helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would say to my younger self not to panic so much and not to stress so much about pinpointing my sexuality, because, you know, we have our whole lives to figure things out. And also to just be in control of the situation as much as you can. I would say that it's really important to feel like you're coming out in a safe space. Don't rush into anything. Don't put pressure on yourself to pinpoint your sexuality, because you have the rest of your life to figure out. But honestly, now that it's been a few years since I've come out, I've discovered that there are other Jews like me in the world. A few Facebook groups have cropped up for other queer Jews, and to see other people existing around the world in similar situations is absolutely incredible. Like, to be able to make friends with people who identify in a similar way or are going through the same struggles. Basically just know that you're not alone, because there are other people out there. No matter how isolated you might feel in your own community, there will always be someone else out there.
Amazing. Yeah, just for the people listening then, what are the Facebook groups?
The main group that's come out of it is called Zoom University Hillel, but queer in brackets. And that's mostly for queer Jewish university students around the world. That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's nice, I think, for the Jewish people to know that, you know, I mean, they might not have anyone around them that they can maybe talk to, but it would be nice to get
just
into
making friends online.
Yeah, into a group, into a community.
So we've got Sounds Frum and Queer, and that's Geschmack. There's Queer University, Find Your Bagel.
Oh, I love that. Oh my god. Are they spelled bagel like BAE?
Yeah.
Your bagel.
Your oh,
is it your
amazing.
bagel or what?
Oh my god, we've just had a bake through. Oh my god.
We've had a bake through.
Some of the names are quite amazing. There's another one which is Jewish women who like women. There's Halachic and Queer. As you can see, there are quite a few different groups out there on Facebook. Just have to find them.
That's so good to know. It would have been so. Yeah. I would have loved to have been in a group like that. I'm gonna join, but you know, hopefully that'll be good for more people in the Jewish community if they're whatever stage they're at, I guess.
Absolutely, and the groups are also supportive, because people are going through all sorts of personal battles, and you can just post on there and people will message you and reach out and give you advice, and you know, no matter what your Jewish background is, there's always someone to support you. So it's really lovely to have those communities, even though they're online and you can't meet people at the moment.
Just nice to have that support.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's really good. I think that's amazing that you've found that, and the journey that you've had and coming out to different people as part of the Orthodox Jewish community. I have a lot of admiration for you. I really do. I think.
Thank you.
I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of it. Bad sounds, but a much easier time with it, and I support you 100%.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a delight to hear your story, and we'll stay in touch, but I do wish you all the best with everything. I really do, and I'd love to hear updates when you found your bagel.
Yes, my bagel. Please God, one day.
Well, what an episode from Mysterious Girl.
I know. When Peter Andre was singing about Mysterious Girl, I did not think
that we'd be chatting to her on QUEAR podcast. No, but that's an important thing to say, that if anyone does actually want to come on, you can remain anonymous, because I know, like, sometimes in our stories we do throw people under the bus that are very close to us. So if you want to remain anonymous, that's okay.
Yeah, of course. You know, these are very personal stories, and sometimes somebody might be a bit anxious talking about it, but it might feel good for them to actually let the story out, or they might think that it will help some people.
So next week we're talking to Danny. He makes a very interesting analogy about coming out.
What is it? Go on.
No.
Go on.
No, you'll have to listen, Gav. Poo. That's all I'm saying.
Hashtag poo.
Yeah, so make sure you tune in for Danny's episode next week, the first guy that we've got on the podcast.
Very exciting. We're all about diversity here on QUEAR Podcast, and this is the start of something new. Well, thanks again, guys, for listening for another episode. It's such a pleasure to be able to chat to you all and bring you these stories and just be a voice in the community.
Put a bit of queer content out there.
Absolutely. But we're very grateful for you all, and we can't wait to share Danny's story with you.
Yeah. See you next week.
See you. Love.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye, love.